each church year has much in common with previous years. Each year brings some new directions and dimensions. But each year is also a study in steadfastness and stability, as faithful members throughout the world apply and prove anew the principles of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. "1977 can be remembered as a year of continuing divine direction, in which the prophet bore eloquent witness to the reality of modern revelation.
Never again will God be hidden from his children on the earth. Revelation is here to remain. Expecting the spectacular, one may not be fully alerted to the constant flow of revealed communication. I say in the deepest of humility, but also with the power and force of a burning testimony in my soul, that from the prophet of the restoration to the prophet of our own year, the communication line is unbroken, the authority is continuous, the light, brilliant and penetrating, continues to shine, and the sound of the voice of the Lord is a continuous melody and a thunderous appeal. For nearly a century and a half, there has been no interruption."
If any one thing set 1977 apart, it was the open way in which the church demonstrated constancy amidst change, of being in the world, but not of the world, as the prophet and others spoke out forcefully and unflinchingly on the pressing moral issues of the day.
Is this a time when we should return to our homes, our families, our children? Is this the time when we should remember our tithes and our offerings? A time when we should desist from our abortions, our divorces, our Sabbath breaking? Is this a time to terminate adultery and homosexual and lesbian activities and return to faith and worthiness? Is this a time to end our heedless pornographies?
We need more integrity in government. We need to be governed by men and women who are undivided in honorable purpose, whose votes and decisions are not for sale to the highest bidder. We need in our elected and appointed officials those whose characters are unsullied, whose lives are morally clean and open.
In Provo, Sister Camilla Kimball, wife of the prophet, set the tone for the Brigham Young University Women's Conference by declaring,
"The opportunities for women to excel are greater today than ever before. We should all be resourceful and ambitious, expanding our interests. Forget self-pity and look for mountains to climb."
The Family Home Evening Manual encouraged the saints to maintain their spiritual standards in a world where such standards were under open attack. In January, another voice from outside the church spoke out forcefully, if indirectly, for a major church concern, genealogy. Alex Haley, author of the book Roots, visited members of the First Presidency and then received an honorary doctorate degree at Brigham Young University.
In recognition of his achievements in highlighting the heritage of a people, in reminding us of the burden of a nation, and in demonstrating the powerful effect that skillful genealogical work and family history can have on us all, Brigham Young University is pleased to confer upon Alex P. Haley the degree Doctor of Humanities honoris causa.
Roots stimulated worldwide interest in genealogy and in the church's genealogical resources. Inquiries poured into the church genealogical library from everywhere. It is becoming a center of international attention. Attendance at the church genealogical library and its 255 branches broke all records in 1977. In June, church representatives presented United States President Jimmy Carter a compilation of his personal genealogy. In August, 6,000 people gathered on the Brigham Young University campus for the 12th and last priesthood genealogy seminar. President Kimball spoke.
This is a historic occasion. This magnificent building filled with eager people interested in their children, their parents, their ancestors.
Temples, too, were in the news in 1977. The cornerstone of the Sao Paulo Temple was laid in March by President Marion G. Romney. President Romney said that although the Sao Paulo Temple was the first in South America in modern times, Nephi tells of a temple being built 25 years after Lehi arrived in America. The temple was scheduled to be completed in 1978 and would serve 170,000 members in South America. Church leaders greeted members at an open house before the ceremony began. President Kimball told the crowd that to build a temple was an extraordinary thing. He admonished all fathers and mothers to be sealed to each other as soon as possible and to have their children sealed to them.
In April, 2 days of commemorative services were held to mark the 100th anniversary of the St. George Temple.
Brethren and sisters, this is a joyful occasion to be with you in one of the most holy places in all the world. Isn't it glorious to be associated here in this beautiful, white, sacred temple? This day, 100 years after the completion and dedication of it.
In October, plans were announced for the 5th new temple in the past 2.5 years. It would be built in American Samoa to serve 50,000 members in the South Pacific. This temple, the 21st one in use, would be completed by 1980. Six new general authorities were sustained in 1977, all as members of the first quorum of the 70. Sustained at April conference were G. Homer Durham, James M. Paramore, and Richard G. Scott. Sustained at October conference were Hugh W. Pinnock, Enzio Busha, and Yoshihiko Kikuchi. The calling of two general authorities who were born and raised outside America dramatized the growing world influence of the church and the gospel's appeal to all nationalities. As expressed by Elder Kikuchi,
I love our Heavenly Father. I know that God lives within my whole heart. I know that living prophet of God today, even Spencer W. Kimball, I love him. I will support him with all my heart.
the calling of these brethren increased the membership of the First Quorum of 70 to 44. At the end of 1977, the composition of the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles was as follows: Spencer W. Kimball, prophet, seer, and revelator, and president of the church. Nathan Eldon Tanner, first counselor in the First Presidency. Marion G. Romney, second counselor in the First Presidency. Ezra Taft Benson, president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. And Quorum members Mark E. Peterson, Delbert L. Stapley, LeGrand Richards, Howard W. Hunter, Gordon B. Hinckley, Thomas S. Monson, Boyd K. Packer, Marvin J. Ashton, Bruce R. McConkie, L. Tom Perry, and David B. hate. Patriarch to the church was Eldred G. Smith. The presiding bishopric consisted of Victor L. Brown, H. Burke Peterson, and J. Richard Clark. Other areas of church leadership received changes during the year. The Young Men and Young Women programs were restructured in May. The new Young Men's General Presidency called were Neil D. Scherer, Graham W. Doxey, and Quinn G. McKay. Leading the young women were Ruth H. Funk, Hortense H. Child, and Ardith G. Capp. Combined Young Men, Young Women activities were officially designated as mutual. It was also announced that the term Program for Single Adults would replace the Melchizedek Priesthood MIA. The Primary Association General Presidency welcomed a new second counselor at April conference. Dorothea Christiansen Murdoch filled the vacancy left when Sarah B. Paulson was called as matron of the Sao Paulo Temple. In late June, 45 new mission presidents and their wives attended a two-day seminar to help prepare them for their callings. They received counsel from several general authorities, including President Kimball. He told them their job was to warn the world and that they would be responsible for every soul within the boundaries of their missions. The church made other organizational and administrative moves throughout the year. The format of general conference sessions was changed from 3 days to only 2. They are to be held on the first Sunday and preceding Saturday of each April and October. The General Activities Committee was created to promote members' cultural and physical development. This committee was to be established in each stake and ward. The church athletic program was reoriented as part of the activities program. In July, Elder Sterling W. Sill of the First Quorum of the 70 broadcast his last program in the Sunday Evening from Temple Square series. He had delivered around 900 messages on the series that was carried by 232 radio stations. Alexander Schreiner retired in December as tabernacle organist. He had given 68 years of continuous service as organist for the church, beginning at age 8, when he was called as organist for his branch in Nuremberg, Germany. John T. Longhurst was called as a tabernacle organist. Two general authorities died in 1977. Elder Alvin R. Dyer on March 6th, and Elder Alma Sonny on November 27th. Elder Dyer, 74, was a member of the First Quorum of the 70. He had served as a general authority for over 18 years. President Tanner and President Benson were among those eulogizing Elder Dyer. President Benson called him a leader of youth, a great missionary, and a devoted family man. At 93, Elder Sonny had been the oldest general authority. He had served as an assistant to the Council of the 12 for 25 years and was a member of the First Quorum of the 70 at the time of his death. His funeral was held in Logan, Utah, where President Kimball paid tribute to him as one of the giants among men. Church growth in 1977 was everywhere in evidence. 87 new stakes were organized, the most ever in a single year. 40 of these were in countries outside the United States, 6 of which received stakes for the first time: Colombia, Honduras, Venezuela, Norway, Belgium, and Finland. And by year's end, there were 885 stakes. With the organization of the Fargo, North Dakota stake in August, the church had a stake headquarters in every state of the United States. Elder Boyd K. Packer, who presided, called it an historic day. 11 new missions were established during the year, 8 of which were outside the United States. At the close of the year, there were 157 full-time missions worldwide, involving 25,300 missionaries. Total church membership on December 31st was 3,966,000 in 54 countries, an increase of 223,251 over 1976. Church growth was evident in President Kimball's busy travel schedule. In February, he was in Latin America for area conferences. In March, at the White House to visit President Carter. In May, in Louisiana to speak to 12,000 people at a special missionary program. During August in Warsaw, President Kimball, in a ceremony of simple elegance, dedicated the land of Poland and blessed its people that the work of the Lord might go forth. In December, in San Antonio, Texas, President Kimball's visit was the first in 53 years by the prophet. President Heber J. Grant visited there in 1924 when the area had 24 members. Church growth was apparent. It took 98 years for the first 100 stakes to be organized, 24 years for the second 100, 8 years for the third 100, 4 years for the fourth 100, 65 months for the fifth 100, 37 months for the sixth 100, 28 months for the seventh 100, and 19 months for the eighth 100. In September, the First Presidency and 30 other general authorities moved from the church office building to the refurbished church administration building. In a 2-year project, the administration building, erected in 1917, had received new electrical, plumbing, heating, air conditioning systems, and new furnishings. When completed, the building was dedicated. Also in the fall, craftsmen completed remodeling part of the interior of the tabernacle on Temple Square. The rostrum was rebuilt of solid oak, and more seats installed for the increased number of general authorities. And in December, ground was broken for a new welfare cannery in Ogden, Utah. Three major buildings were dedicated in October on the BYU Hawaii campus: the Joseph F. Smith Library, Parent-Child Center, and Physical Plant Building Complex. Dr. Henry B. Eyring, president of Ricks College since 1972, was appointed Deputy Commissioner of Church Education. Many activities in 1977 helped the church to let its light shine. Several bronze statues were put on display on the plaza of the church office building in the spring. They were part of 13 statues that would form the Relief Society Monument to Women, to be erected in Nauvoo. In June, the church-sponsored Polynesian Cultural Center in Hawaii welcomed its 1 millionth visitor. The 40th Hill Cumorah pageant, acclaimed by outdoor theater critics as one of the best of its kind in the world, attracted over 100,000 spectators. Messages of congratulations poured into the retiring director, Harold I. Hansen.
To Dr. Harold I. Hansen for outstanding service in directing the Hill Cumorah pageant, America's Witness for Christ, from 1937 through 1977. His dedication and ability have earned for the production recognition as one of America's foremost outdoor pageants.
In September, the church observed the 150th anniversary of Joseph Smith receiving the gold plates from which the Book of Mormon was translated. By 1977, the Book of Mormon had been translated into 23 languages, and 1.5 million copies were being put into circulation each year. The Bountiful Tabernacle, oldest meeting house in use in the church, was rededicated by President Kimball in November after extensive remodeling and expanding. The building was originally dedicated by President Kimball's grandfather, Heber C. Kimball, in 1863. Every church president, except the prophet Joseph Smith, has spoken here. Throughout the year, public communications took on an international look as the church increased the number of public communications directors and offices in stakes and missions abroad. Eight area conferences were held in February and March in Latin America. Each conference included general sessions, a priesthood meeting, a meeting for mothers and daughters, and a cultural program. Nearly 65,000 members and their non-member friends attended. The first four conferences were held in Mexico City, Monterrey, Mexico, Guatemala, and Costa Rica. Nearly 25,000 attended the conference in Mexico City. They'd come from as far away as Yucatan, 1,000 miles to the east. It was the largest attendance ever for an area conference. A children's chorus of 800 sang in the general sessions. Perhaps the most moving moments came at the closing session, when President Kimball told of a dream he had when he visited Mexico in 1946.
This was my vision for the people of the Lamanites. I see the Lamanites from the Isles of the Sea and the Americas rise to a great destiny. I see your boys particularly, and some girls on missions. Not only hundreds of them, but thousands of them.
21,000 saw Mexican culture on parade as they attended the cultural program. .500 attended the second conference in Monterrey in northeast Mexico.
We love the Mexican people.
Amamos a los mexicanos.
We expect a great growth among them.
Esperamos un gran crecimiento entre ellos.
As we read the Book of Mormon,
al leer el libro de Mormón,
your book,
su libro,
we find the Lord has made many promises to you.
Encontramos que el Señor ha hecho grandes promesas a ustedes.
He has called you Lamanites.
Él los ha llamado lamanitas.
I hope that no one here is ashamed of that name.
Espero que nadie aquí presente se avergüence de ese nombre.
It's one of the noblest and most glorious of all names.
In Guatemala City, site of the third conference, President Kimball was welcomed by 7,400 saints from Guatemala and El Salvador.
It's a joy to be with you here in Guatemala.
Es un gozo estar con ustedes aquí en Guatemala.
As you have heard, I had something to do with the organization of the church in this area.
Como ustedes han escuchado, yo tuve una participación en la organización de la iglesia en esta área.
And it pleases me greatly to see so many wonderful people here in Guatemala.
The fourth conference was held in San Jose, Costa Rica. 2,000 members heard President Kimball and other general authorities during the inspiring sessions.
Many people are joining the church, and this is according to the way the Savior Jesus Christ desired it to do. He said to his 11 apostles on the Mount of Olives, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature."
After the conference in Costa Rica, President Kimball and others traveling with him crossed the Panama Canal en route to the next conference.
President, a lot of people wonder why you keep up such a fast pace, why you're able to fly on airplanes like this and travel from city to city. How do you do it?
Well, there's so much to do, you have to do it. You're compelled to do it to keep up with the growth of the church.
The last 4 conferences were the first to be held in Western South America. Nearly 8,000 attended the general sessions in Lima, Peru.
We expect that someday there might be a temple in Lima. The prophets have predicted this many times in the past, that there would be hundreds of temples. So you folks have a big service to perform as you get ready for a temple in the future.
In Peru, as in the other countries, the opportunity to see a prophet of the Lord was a special experience. A wonderfully warm welcome was given to President and Sister Kimball upon their arrival in Santiago. 6,800 members filled the Teatro Capalacan for the 6th conference.
We extend to you a most sincere welcome.
Extendemos a todos una bienvenida sincera.
To all who are assembled here today in the first session of the first area conference held in Chile.
Many wore pictures of the prophet, bearing Spanish words meaning, "I will do it." Children and adults by the thousands filed past the general authorities for a fond farewell at the conclusion of the conference. "500 Aymara Indians were among the 4,200 members who attended the conference in La Paz.
It was our pleasure to see the program last night, and we were delighted with the hundreds of people who participated in that program.
When the last session was over, the general authorities stood and shook hands for 40 minutes. Old, young, mothers with babies, all came to look into the faces of their spiritual leaders. Around 3,000 attended the final conference in Bogota. Among them were 200 members from Venezuela and 250 from Ecuador. Speakers said that not since Book of Mormon days have so many members of the church in this country been gathered to hear the voice of the Lord through his prophet.
I love the Indian people. One of the great surprises and accomplishments on this tour of the area conference has been the large number of Indian people who are taking active part.
At the closing session, a choir of 40 Otavalo Indians delivered an unmistakable musical message in the Quechua language. President Kimball said, "I believe Jesus Christ would have been happy had he been here. In fact, I would like to believe he was present." The month-long Latin American area conferences covered 22,000 air miles and touched the lives of members and non-members in 13 countries. All who were a part of the conferences would long remember them. This was the Church in Action, 1977.